All right, so I want a moment to understand. I really need that. A moment to understand the implications of modern day feminism. No, sorry. What I actually meant was to understand the implications of feminism in general. Today's feminism, as well as even the first wave. You see, unlike the mainstream anti feminists, I am like a hipster anti feminist. I'm just joking, of course. But thinking as I do, I was wondering, how did women get the vote? How did women get their political privileges? Because they are privileges, of course. Voting, which means deciding on taking the property of other people and redistributing it, is basically a privilege that is enforced by the political establishment, as is today established worldwide. My objection primarily is when women say that they got the right to vote, and I want to make the case that this is not the case. I want to make the case that women did not win this right, this privilege for themselves. What really happened was some men, let us call them cucks, because they are really cucks, gave this privilege. They gave up this privilege because they felt, I don't know, maybe guilt for something they didn't do, obviously. Now, I could go on and on saying how it is irrational to feel guilt about things you haven't done, like, for example, feeling guilt about raping women, about other men that rape women, or other people that enslave other people, or other people that murder people, depending on their color, or I don't know how. Collective guilt is completely irrational, as is collective pride. Feeling collective pride for your achievements as white race is completely irrational, just like it is irrational to feel pride as a black guy, or as a Greek, or as a Russian, as an American. To feel pride. Now, returning to the issue, when it comes to the women, there have been some men who have felt this collective guilt, who have decided, oh fuck it, let's be the nice guys and give them what they want. And by give them what they want, of course, we mean the privilege of deciding where the stolen money, the tax money, go. What I want to make in my case is that the movement, the feminist movement for universal suffrage, for women's suffrage, was not really a movement by women. I mean, if you start to think about it, what did women do? Usually, to get the vote, or usually to get political power, what you do is get guns, take to the streets, and win your right through might. Women didn't do that, or at least, as far as I can tell, that is not the case. What was really the case was women kept whining and whining about their miseries, and some men obviously gave up. There was no major war, there was no civil war, there were no civil wars anywhere, there wasn't an armed struggle for the political rights of women. One could argue that many minorities or many ethnic groups in certain countries have tried with guns, with armed conflicts to change the status quo and to gain political power. But we do not see that in the case of women. In the case of women, what we truly see is women, in a way, lobbying to use men as a means to get the goodies, to get the privileges. Now, the men who submit to these calls are what we would call today cucks. They are, I would not call them beta males, because that would be misinforming people. In reality, these people are fetishizing self-immolation and guilt. They're fetishizing feeling shitty. These men gave up the political privileges when the real question was not whether or not women had political privileges, but whether or not women produced wealth, whether or not they were part of the productive process, of the process of production. And if we are to ask this, and of course we are to reach another conclusion, women, at the point that the universal suffrage was an issue, at the point that the women's suffrage was an issue, they were not exactly in the productive force. They were most certainly in the sense of helping their families, of most certainly taking part in unskilled labor and all that. They did take part in that, but I am not entirely sure if they paid the same taxes as men did, or the same weight, economic weight, financial weight from taxes and any kind of taxation compared to men. I mean, if you're a woman, is it that imperative to have a job compared to a man? How can a man go on in his life without a job? It's impossible. For a woman, it is remotely possible today, and it might have been possible in earlier times. Of course, in traditional societies, even though I do not agree with traditionalism as a general Weltanschauung, world idea, in traditional societies, it has been more common for women to contribute in their own way. But I'm returning to the primary issue, which is I've never seen the whole women's suffrage thing being a point of actual struggle. What I've seen is women demonstrate. And when we say demonstrating, we mean, just shouting on the streets. We don't mean real action. When we are saying activism, activism has been eliminated. It has been crushed as a meaning. And the reason is, when we're talking about activism, all we are saying is just, throw yourselves on the rails for the train to kill you or something like that. All we are saying is lie down and wait for the tanks to crush your body. We do not mean real action. We do not mean grabbing a gun and demanding that your enemies stand down. We do not mean grabbing a gun and claiming the right that you define through your might. And I believe that women, when they're talking about struggle, they don't mean anything like that. What they mean is actually whining to their husbands, to the men, and the men who potentially want to fuck them, and telling them, if you're not on my side, you're a misogynist, you hate women. So some men, wanting to seem like they are friendly towards women, that they are husband material in the evolutionary sense, they advocate more female presence in the political life of each country. Now, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I have never met, and I am sure I will never meet, a man who is so degenerate that he will not acknowledge a woman that is on the same intellectual level as he is. In fact, most of the time, men tend to be let down because they think that women are above them intellectually. And of course, they are proven wrong. So if women actually have something more to demonstrate in their abilities, I am perfectly sure that they could have done that in any age. I mean, for crying out loud, Emperor Justinian's wife, Theodora, was what we would call today a slut, a prostitute, and yet she was almost much smarter than Justinian himself. She was as smart as him, and even though he would have gotten fucked by his people back in the day, because his people were fucking pissed because he did some certain bad things, Theodora provided necessary counsel and told him to stay in his station and fight the good fight. But these cases are very, very small. I don't really see them in history, and this is not precisely because we are just dumbing women down or we are kicking their asses. The most violence that is happening in history is not against women but against men in gross numbers. In fact, the reason we are saying that X number of women and children are dead is because it is kind of extraordinary to kill women, and of course children, but women. Because they are, as many people say, the reproductive bulwark. But I'm going on another tangent here. The real issue is to understand that if we have oppressed women, many of the things that are said against us would not actually be the case. And most importantly of all, if women actually struggled, we wouldn't be talking about some vague kind of going on strike or some vague demonstrations on the streets, burning your bra or anything like that. We would be talking about actual fucking carnage. We would be talking about people dying on the streets. We would be talking about women getting guns and shooting police officers, shooting soldiers, and we would be talking about real struggle. And feminism is not like that. Feminists never did that. Did they form militias and say we enforce our rights? No, they didn't do that. All they did was whine to men about their rights being not handed over to them. And women always do that. They always they are always objects, never subjects. And when they say we are objectified, in reality, women objectify themselves. We don't need to objectify them. In fact, men try not to objectify them because, by all means, we have no time and no patience to deal with objects, especially when it comes to human beings. We would definitely like to be dealing with subjects. And women enjoy being objects. And even if they say they don't, they do. I mean, being an object grants you the ability to avoid responsibility. And women tend to do that. Many times they tend to say, it's the patriarchy, it's this, it's that, it's the man keeping me down. Literally, they say the man is keeping me down. Why? Well, the best argument they can muster is that due to sexual dimorphism, they are less muscular than men, which of course implies they are inferior in a certain sector of life, and that means that we are using our blunt force against them. Okay, let's say we're using our blunt force against them, I accept that. What about our brains? Wouldn't they technologically overpower us? And that's not even the case even there. Even there we see that they don't technologically overpower us. We are not dependent on them. The only sector in which we really are dependent on the female is reproduction. And this, of course, makes a case for what many people like Napoleon said in their own cynical way, that women serve only one purpose, and that's reproduction. Now, these words tend to cause a lot of butthurt in females, and even though they cause butthurt, I've never seen an actual refutation. I mean, instead of whining about how shitty your life is, how about acting? And no, I don't mean acting like going and whining to your husband or to your brother or to your boyfriend or to any male. And I've reached the conclusion that this is the problem with modern feminism. They want to turn the passive nature of women, they want to turn the self-objectification of women into a moral right. They want to say they are morally correct for doing that, and that we are the ones at fault for simply treating them like every other human being in perfectly reasonable terms, in perfectly meritocratic terms. Because when you're treating a woman like she's a piece of meat, as some say, well, start thinking about it. Why would you do that? You would do that because you don't see any other utility in maintaining a relationship with a female. And that does not say so much about you as it says about, firstly, how you value things, and secondly, that women simply do not correspond to your priorities. Now, should you change your priorities to simply accommodate women? No, my opinion is not. Women, if they are capable, of course they will show, they will demonstrate their abilities. I don't believe that ability is something that can be silenced that easily. Ability can be demonstrated time and time again. And if anything, my best advice for anybody listening is when you hear a woman saying anything along the lines of "the man is keeping me down," stop listening to her right away. Just get some earplugs, put them on, and then it's done. Stop listening, because she made her point. She is a victim. She wants to be a victim. That's the role she has picked for herself in this life, in this four-dimensional world. You cannot do anything to change that unless she's willing, of course, to allow you to provide her counsel. So the best thing I can say is let it go. Don't try to prove that you are not oppressing her, for crying out loud. You do not have to prove that to anybody. You do not have to prove that you are not a racist. You do not have to prove that you are not a sexist. You do not have to prove that you do not have a fetish in seeing infants dying or something like that, or kittens. You do not have any such obligation. If women want to tell you you're a misogynist, well, it's their right to do that. And of course, they are retarded for saying that, but they should say that if they feel like it. What we should do as men is stop listening. Okay, fine, I'm a misogynist. Call me whatever the fuck you want. If being meritocratic and having the same standards for everybody is being a sexist, then I'm sexist. I'm a complete sexist. I'm the worst of them out there. You should be unapologetic about your meritocratic way of thinking. Because if you start giving up, if you start saying, well, maybe you're right in this or that, you've lost the case. What about rape? They want you to condemn rape. Women want you to condemn rape. They want you to condemn rape specifically against women. Oh, gee whiz, a person that is above a certain age, a person that is no longer a kid understands basic elements like this. Even kids understand some elements like this. Raping people isn't nice, just like using violence against people isn't nice. Raping is a form of violence. To do rape, you need to employ violence. Therefore, rape is bad. But women need some specific condemnation of rape against women. Fucking no, fucking no. I am against aggression. I am against aggression. I'm against aggressive violence. But of course, if rape is within this group, then I'm against it. Now, if you have made this clear, if you have made clear that you are not a person that is somehow fetishizing or enjoying violence, that is aggressive violence, of course, then you have made your point. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to tell them. But I'm merely saying this. I'm merely trying to. No, no. Don't try to justify yourself. Don't try to put it in a nicer way, in a better way. Say it the way it is. You have some standards. If they feel it's sexist, fuck them. That's it. Thank you for listening.